little bit about this summer, what's going on at your home office here in Tampa, Florida. As always, we got Mr. Will running the whole show, as you know. But yeah, we're going to go over everything that's going on here at Megastar, from the Fed program to a little summer incentive that we've got going on. Partnered with our friends over at F&G. You've probably been hearing us talk a lot about F&G. Well, F&G is back at it again, trying to get more and more of us over here at Megastar to see the light of some of the great stuff they're pumping out there. Great fade out, Will. Great job. That was perfect. But yeah, we've been talking with F&G. We got a nice little incentive there. We're talking about the Fed program, which if you've been in contact with us about the Fed leads program, Fed appointment program, I should say, or in Fed webinars or seminars, you know there's been a bit of a slowdown with some updates to the federal government servers. We're going to tackle some of that here on the show, and we're going to talk about some interesting developments on the Learning Lab front. So
some good things.
Maybe, so Rick, obviously you've been fielding a ton of the calls about the Fed program. Let's talk about that first.
Yeah.
For those watching at home, you might know that, when was it? Back in March?
Mid-March.
Maybe it wasn't. Yeah, it was about March, there was an update to the government servers. Government basically said to anybody, whether you're a registered vendor or not, that they were going to be giving the compliance handling rights of emails being received by the government, right? So emails coming into their inboxes that they were going to require, or they were going to give the rights to govern compliance on those emails to each individual department. Creates a problem for even a whitelisted vendor of the government like FIBA.
From what I've read, there's like a base level of like security protocol that they have to like administer to. Like there's a certain level of like, hey, this is what you absolutely can't allow. But beyond that, above measures to that, each interdepartmental can decide what they want to tack on.
Which wasn't the case. It was back in DC's hands as one rule to make to govern them all, kind of thing. And so now they've got they've given that right to every department. So every department decides, oh, you know, I'm going to make it really stringent rules, or I'm just going to have different rules. And that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be more complex. It just needs, if it's different than another department, that creates a problem for folks like us who have a lot of subscribers from a lot of different departments. FIBA has tons, 2.4 million federal employees in our database. And so if those all come from different departments, there's a big chunk from the VA. That's where we started this whole venture. It was back in the VA. But that's only one body of law in the VA. So if every department has a different set of rules, well, that's a different. If there's 500 different departments, that's 500 different sets of rules. And the VA went a step further to say that in different regions of the same department, they were allowed to have different rules. And it was all about this kind of overreaction to the
hacking.
Which hacking was it?
So there's two kind of back-to-back. One that happened a while ago that they dug more on, and then obviously the Coastal Pipeline hack.
Coastal Pipeline.
The pipeline hack was kind of like the big
that was the final straw.
Alarm to it, but they actually had I believe a Department of Defense employee got hacked through like the SolarWind processor.
Oh, SolarWind.
SolarWind is like what you use for like me to log into your computer. That was a bigger one. That was a much more like governmental defense, like, hey, this could be a problem for us on a security level versus like, I mean, obviously the Coastal Pipeline was, right? They got ransomwared for, I think it was like $5 million in Bitcoin or something like that. But
they're going to go to the cryptocurrency, of course.
The FBI ended up tracking them down, which is a whole wild story for a different time. But a DoD employee got his computer hacked through a SolarWinds platform, which therein it was like April that they released a statement like, hey, we're shutting everything down. Like if you're not an interdepartmental government.gov email, we're not going to let it process, or we're going to process to such an nth degree that realistically you're going to end up in any form of spam folder, because we have to make sure that this hack didn't leak to somewhere else, right? Like this wasn't a phishing scam that we put your email in, got into your computer, and that's going to feed through all the departments. So that's what really caused a lot of this like hard lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a washing of the hands. Like the DC was like, you know what? We're not going to be responsible for all this anymore. We're just going to give the rights back to the individual departments. Frustrating as heck for a vendor like FIBA, because, you know, that's how FIBA makes its livelihood, right?
It's,
it survives
it's the Tower
by
of Babel, but like email based, right? Like we're all speaking one language to the federal government. Now it's like we got split up, and now it's all different languages to send emails.
And they can change them however they want. And the problem is none of the departments are reporting what those compliance standards are. Why would they? They don't care.
Yeah.
They're just telling their individual employees what
Which realistically they don't have to worry about, right? I mean, if you're an employee, you're not going to be sending anything besides a work email back and forth.
So
right?
it's just a matter of figuring it out and getting to the bottom of each different department. Well, that came to a head after chasing our tails for 2 months trying to figure it out, or thinking we had it and didn't have it. We finally found a software that allows us to adapt to an email's compliance standard automatically upon send. So if we send an email through this software platform, there's a cost to sending it through that. So every email that goes through has a cost associated with it, which is kind of a bummer now. But there's a small cost associated with it. And there was a giant investment made by Megastar and the partners at Megastar here to get the software set up. So that was another big deal, which is fine. We've done that when we built the first system. We had to do that. This is another significant investment. But now it's a, just like with any software, they make it a big build out cost. And then after that, they charge you, they nickel and dime you every time you want to send emails out. It's pretty similar in like a MailChimp world. They do that kind of thing anyway. So I should be clear, this is not MailChimp that we're sending through.
We just figured out what MailChimp is, right?
Yeah, no. I send emails through MailChimp, all right? Our creative department does not send through MailChimp. Anyway, so now we're sending this emails out, and the software adapts the email framework to the compliance standards of the receiving server. So it's now going, it guarantees the placement as much, still people could set up spam settings if they said, I don't want to ever receive emails from FIBA. Of course, that's always been the case.
Yeah.
But these are folks that are subscribing to FIBA. So that very rarely ever happens. So it guarantees placement for our emails into the inbox again, no matter what the department says. And that's some pretty cool tech that we were able to find through our IT partners. Ryan and Dylan kind of spearheaded those talks in the beginning. And so it's up and cooking. Yeah. We are running some beta testing right now. So anybody watching, you may start to receive leads right now because we are starting to run some basic beta tests to make sure that the softwares that we've invested in and that the fees that we are paying to send these emails out are in fact landing in the inbox and are resulting in appointments booked. But on July 1st, there will be an update to how this program is funded, how it stays in force. I've already talked with, some ways in which we can, ease any monetary costs for anybody in the program, right? So we are talking about some ways to do that, along with other ways for advisors to earn bonuses. And all of that will be to come in the coming weeks. So, don't call me and start wanting to it's like there's nothing to be said just yet. We'll start to issue updates on all of that stuff as far as marketing incentives and such. In July. So July 1st. So not this week's episode, but the week after that episode, we should have an update for everybody on how the federal program will look for the rest of the year. With the same good quality or better quality even, right? Because now we'll have that guaranteed placement, better quality appointments. We're talking something nominal, folks. But anyway, that's an update. Good news is we're back. We're back up and running, getting folks back in front of federal employees. Expect some leads to start coming towards you. That combined with the other silver lining of the whole federal program is we started to experiment with some of the Facebook advertising to those subscribers. And that ended up being, a mild success, I would say. The average no-show rate increased. So there's some work left to be done on the marketing front on the Facebook side to make sure that those people show up to their appointments a little bit. But even the late testing, the most recent blasts of that have really been solid. So we're excited about that. So if you're, asking or if you have any questions about how the appointments are generated after July 1st, we'll probably generate some appointments from Facebook, from emails, from all different ventures, webinars, or however we can generate appointments for you through FIBA. We'll be doing that.
I think a big part to the social media platform, to me, that I've seen on the data, that's the big win to it, is we can get in front of a lot of those difficult to reach or harder lockdown departments like DOJ, like DOD.
We never had access to DOD. You can't email them at all. Even our new fancy email system still won't allow emails through that Department of Defense server. And the other was postal folks. That was another big one for the federal Facebook stuff. Postal people, it's not that we don't have subscribers or folks that or data on federal employees that are in the postal department. It's that they are a lot of times letter carriers, and they're not checking their emails. They don't do that. It's not part of their day-to-day.
I mean, most of the information they get from the union in the first place. If it's not from the union, it's like, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Point. So coming from Facebook, it's open source. They can go make the choice or decision to do it. So
for years, the folks that we work with that are specialized in the postal world, they go straight to the mouth of the union and they start those relations.
Firefighters. I've seen a lot more of those pop up recently. So it's been cool.
So Facebook has allowed us to bridge that gap into our more traditional appointment model into a lot of departments, like you said, new departments. So a lot of good updates. We're expecting a huge blast in the federal space for the rest of the year. It should be just absolute gangbusters from there. Yeah.
As soon as we get over like July 4th hump, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, that is another thing. We're going to be launching the new program right around the
huge
July 4th, the big federal holiday, the first one that seems to be open since the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So that's going on. So that's an update on the Fed program. Back up and running. Big. We should see a huge rally at the end of the year now of federal appointments. Expect to see that. Expect to see some mild changes as to how it works, but the same great results as far as quality of appointment. And, we were talking the other day about ongoing appointment consultations, where we'll actually be structuring weekly or biweekly webinars, interactive meetings with myself and Rick, where you advisors watching, any of you that are working the federal appointments that want to hop on and get your questions answered, role play live, listen to us role play with other advisors that are working appointments in the space. If you're watching this, you will be able to hop on these webinars. I've already talked with Will about this too. He's been trying to figure out how we'll do it. But basically, there will be a webinar where you can jump on, and we'll be covering first appointments in one webinar. Other webinars will be about the second appointment, overcoming objections, how to move towards a close, all of that. So if you want to get your questions answered, or if it's your first time ever working these appointments, you'll have a webinar that you can hop onto and hear it right from my mouth and Rick's mouth on how we've seen advisors out in the field handle those situations, how we've handled those situations ourselves on phone calls, all of the above. And
it'd be cool. Role play some cases, go through it, walk through.
Yeah.
Just a trigger parts of it that we can't cover in an hour-long webinar. You know?
Yeah, and live too. It's not a recording like Coffee for Closers, right? Yeah. Let's talk about summer incentive, this F&G thing. So F&G, obviously we've been talking a lot about F&G lately. They're a great partner for us in the Fed space. They have great products out right now. In fact, I know you guys are talking about a new product that's just been launched by them. It's still inspecting how good is that product. Yeah. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about an incentive, a little summer bash. We got together with our partners over at F&G. They said that they want to launch a little incentive campaign. So for, July 1st through August 31st.
Yep.
Every app dated from July 1st through August 31st, okay, will count towards a top producer contest. So the app has to be with F&G, so any of F&G's products. If you whoever writes the most production, so their payout to the top 3 producers, so the top 3 summer producers from July 1st, that apps dated July 1st through August 31st. 31 days in August, right?
Yeah.
August 31st. Yeah. First place will get $5,000. Second place will get $3,000, and third place will get $2,000 in bonus commissions.
Yeah, not bad. On top of regular flat commissions.
On top of your regular commission rate.
And on top of the F&G power producer in the first place, right?
On top of the incentives, other incentives. This is additional bonus money offered by your colleagues at Megastar, sponsored by F&G, to get you familiar with their products and hopefully just maybe an added incentive if needed to kind of really bust our behinds over the summer holiday. Okay?
Yeah, it's killer.
So that'll be exciting. I don't know what it's going to take to qualify. So, there's no qualification number. It's just who's ever the top producer for that. And I don't know what that rough number is going to be or anything like that. So I'm hoping you guys get to it and get familiar with the product lines. If you want any help, Rick, they can get with you.
Oh, absolutely. Me, the whole team, anybody here.
Okay.
Yep.
The other incentive, so there's two competitions going. If it's your first application ever with F&G, and it would count towards the other competition too. But if this is your first time writing with F&G and you write an app over $50,000, Megastar will give you an additional $500 for that first app. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, even if you just have another case that you want to write with F&G, or if you just want to try them out, small case, it just has to be over $50,000, you'll get $500. Now, that doesn't mean that if you write an app for $300,000, you're still going to get that same $500.
Yeah.
But it's just it's a little incentive, a little extra on top for anybody that's not familiar or has always maybe wanted to take a look at the F&G product line. If it's your first application ever with Megastar, with F&G, then we'll give you an extra $500 for having done so. Okay, over $50,000.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, and on their index suite as well. It's gonna be their index suite, or are we doing on the platinums and such?
Yeah.
Index suite?
I believe so.
Yeah, index suite. I think Lee said index suite.
Yeah. So everything under the sun with F&G. We just want to get you guys familiar with a brand, with a carrier, a brand that we're very confident is a quality carrier that's up and coming, and a great partner of ours, especially in the federal space.
Yeah.
With a conversation, if you've watched the last episode of Coffee for Closers, you saw David Connors using it in his pitch. They've just made themselves so incredibly accessible to federal employees and so adaptable to the federal employee market. The conversation is almost
easy.
a no-brainer.
$500 is a great way to show people how easy it is to tell people about the power accumulator in the federal space.
Yeah, a little extra kicker. That's a 1% kickback if you write a $50,000 policy, right?
Yeah.
It's good. Hey, all right, so that's good. The last thing we want to talk about on this little summer update is Learning Lab. So that's the F&G incentive. If you want more information about that, we have it. You can contact Rick. Rick's team will get you more information on it. We also have another email going out about it, so stay tuned for that. You'll probably see that in your inboxes here soon. The other thing we want to know about is the status of the Learning Lab.
Yeah.
You've heard how good the workshops are going, or, I mean, they've been going pretty good?
Kind of. I mean, mixed bag results. I've had some really good workshops. Numbers seem to be up, which is, I think, due to people not being able to get out and get information. Some areas have had some really good quality. A lot of people closing some good business off of it. Some of them, not so much. A lot of people in the room seem to be just trying to get out of the house and do something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of quid pro quo for like a workshop system. I know Scott's been doing a lot of fine tuning to switch that up and really get some good quality in the system.
I'd say there's been a pretty good tide change in the Learning Lab as far as the quality in the last month of workshops.
Yeah.
And not to say that the quality was poor before. It's just like we have some pretty high standards for what we expect out of a workshop. Now, you're always going to have plate lickers at a general workshop. You're always going to have some Social Security disability folks at any workshop about Social Security. But the Learning Lab leads or appointment program is something exciting.
That's something I'm really excited about.
So right now we are toying with the idea of just like federal kind of started on this wave of trying to, we're going to get folks to a webinar or to a seminar in person, and we're going to ask them to book an appointment with our consultant there. Learning Lab is exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
Advisor goes out, does a workshop. They then then ask the audience to sign up for an appointment. They then go work those appointments. Same way the federal started. Federal then later on saw as FIBA grew in its perceived credibility. As people got familiar with the FIBA brand, we didn't need to do this whole rigmarole with federal workshops all the time. We could just go ahead and do webinars and podcasts like this and different benefit shows and pump out videos and get subscribers that way. And then just go straight to anytime we wanted to book appointments for advisors, just shoot out an email and say, hey, we know you have questions about your benefits. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a subscriber of FIBA. We want you to know there are people that can help you with that sort of thing. They're called FRCs, and you've probably got one in your backyard. If you want to find out if you can book one, click this link. Book an appointment with an FRC.
Yep.
Same idea here with the Learning Lab. Learning Lab's growing quite substantially, and we're finding people still wanting, before they register for a workshop, before they go to a workshop, we found out during the pandemic that there's this whole different group of people that would never come to an in-person workshop because they know this shtick, right? They know what's going to happen. And so now we don't want to give up this other type of prospect in the new world. They're good prospects. They're people that, again, we're missing when we just do workshops. So if we can capture those people by doing webinars, shows, podcasts, things that appeal to that mindset. If I don't want to go to a group setting and sit down with somebody, I just want to cut to the chase.
I know what I want. Yeah, I know what I'm looking for. I know what I want to do, or at least I have an idea of it. Right?
I want to have a singular conversation with an expert.
And I don't want to waste my time and sit for an hour and a half to listen to him talk about his whole thing. Like, I know what I'm looking for. Can I just talk to somebody?
Yeah, I want to talk about that one question I have, not the history of Social Security and how it works and what this taxation is of it. I want to know when I should claim, and I've done all my research. I know all this stuff that you're probably going to talk about at the workshop. I just want an answer to this last part.
Or vice versa, right? I don't need to know every tax code or why, all the different situations where everybody's taxes may be affected by retirement. Like, I just want to sit down and get my taxes fixed, right? Like, and I want to talk about how I can not pay a lot of taxes in retirement, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. The thought process, or a lot of the things that we found out that we are missing this whole pot of person, this whole pot of personality, we'll say, in the
it's
pandemic.
Just a matter of sitting down with somebody you trust and know versus any other system where it's like, hey, we're just going to generate somebody who's interested about retirement, right? It's like, I want to talk to somebody from the Learning Lab.
Right.
So I've been watching the stuff. I've been paying attention to it. I've been seeing it. I know what I want. I know when I talk to somebody, and I know I want it to be with you guys.
Right. So we've done all we can do now to start creating content that gets people familiar and trusting the Learning Lab virtually, and then pushing those subscribers towards booking an appointment with advisors like yourself watching the show right now.
Yep.
So that is probably an early fall launch to something like that. We're still in very, very soon, or very, very early beta testing on that part of the program. Whereas the federal program, obviously, this reboot of it is in late stages of testing, right?
Yep.
So now the Learning Lab will eventually have both platforms. We're not saying don't do seminars.
No, like I said, most of them are working very well.
Most seminars are doing fantastic. In fact, I would argue that good 80 to 90% of its seminars are absolutely incredible, especially when you consider how much they're paying for a workshop. You're talking about 30 to 40 attendees buying units at a workshop. You're talking about booking appointments. I mean, that depends greatly on the quality of the speaker and the presentation given. But, 15 to 20 appointments sometimes out of it, 10 appointments out of it. Like, I see a good wide spectrum when it comes to that. And advisors closing a good chunk of business. Couple policies from every workshop right away. A couple more policies that drag on past the 90-day mark or so. But still, tons of new clients.
Even when we get this thing launched in the fall, right? Like, I would still, if I was an advisor, I would still be running the workshops on top of doing that campaign, right?
It will always
One would be like
that.
an active management system of like, I'm going to actively spend my Wednesday night, Tuesday and Thursday night, whatever it might be, doing a workshop to get those 20 appointments, 15 appointments, whatever it may be. And then I would just run that in the background to be scheduling appointments on top of what I'm doing actively.
Yeah, if you're a Learning Lab rep, you might as well do all things Learning Lab that you can. Like, do the workshops and take the appointments as they come. Because it's likely that if you're doing workshops in an area and you're soliciting for those workshops over and over in an area and people just aren't coming, when you finally start giving some content to that area that you've been marketing to for your workshops for years, months, whatever it is, when you start doing some video content just to gain trust in the hopes that you can go direct to appointment with some people in your area, those people have already been hit so many times by your workshop ads that they'll have some recognizable,
I wasn't ready yet, but I saw this guy a year ago, and I've been seeing his stuff. And
this guy solicits me all the time. Oh, there's a video by him. Finally, I'll get to see what he can do. Let's hear this jabroni talk a little bit, And finally, they listen to the guy talking. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I don't want to go see something, but hey, okay, well, I can just book a phone consultation with this dude. I can get that question answered real quick.
In a sense, we're creating like this national drip campaign. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's only going to work better for the appointment program. Will only work better in areas. It's like it'll work probably nationally, no issues on a certain level, but it'll be expedited in areas where advisors are already doing workshop campaigns on top of it, doubling down on the learning labs, marketing and branding in an area. So it'll be very, very exciting. So big things happening on the federal front, big things happening in the learning lab front. The service and support team continuing to kick butt on everything as far as case design. Great stuff, Rick. And then we've got the July incentive. The summer F&G incentive.